Hello, boys and girls. So it is that time of year, self-portraits. So before you go, oh no, we're going to switch it up a little bit this year for fourth and fifth grade. If you would rather just do the traditional way of self-portraits, you can find that lesson in the second and third grade folders. Okay, so you can go to either one of those and it'll be taught just like we've been doing it every year. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently for fourth and fifth graders because some of you are really wanting to learn how to do it more realistically. So I'm going to show you some more advanced tips for doing a more realistic self-portrait or portrait of a face. It doesn't have to be your own face. We're just going to learn how to draw an accurate portrayal of a face. So we're using the same template that we've always used, and we're going to practice in our sketchbooks. And so I want you to put that under the next blank page on your sketchbook, and you are going to trace the outline of the face. We're going to start with the sides of the face and the chin. And remember to keep it light, especially for learning it this way. We want to keep very much of a sketching motion because the human face is not actually drawn with lines. It's drawn with shadows or with value. So that's part of what we're going to be doing, a kind of a combination of lines and value. This would be a great time to bring mom and dad alongside you and teach them some of these tricks too that you've been learning all these years. So let's go ahead and draw the shoulders, or the neck and the shoulders as well. And the rest of the lines that are on the template, I want for you to just very gently do dash marks, because we really don't want to see those lines anymore. We do need them as a reference, but we don't want them. Let's do the line of symmetry down the face. Now for some of you, if this is your first time doing self-portraits, this line represents the line that goes down the center of the face. So if I laid my pencil here on my drawing, and then if you look at me, this is what it represents, dividing the right half of the face from the left half of the face. We have mirror symmetry on our faces, although they're not identical. You can even see my eyes are slightly different. This eye is a little bit smaller than this eye. Everybody's features are a little bit different on the left and the right. But that just means we have an eye on each side and a cheek on each side and half of our mouth. The other lines we're doing divides the top half of the head from the bottom half. So I'm going to do that also with a dashed mark like this. You might hear my neighbor's lawnmower out there. I have my windows open. Hopefully it's not too loud. We'll talk more about these lines, but I want you to do them very lightly, and I want you to do them dash marks so that you know we're not tracing over these again. So let's talk about the placement of the eyes. The eyes go, most of you know this, but along this first horizontal line. And as a reminder, if you look at me, from the top of my head to the bottom of my chin represents the top of my scalp and the bottom of my skull, rather. And my eyes are right about at the halfway point, which is what this line represents. Now, how big are the eyes? We're going to say they're about a finger space away from the line of symmetry. That's where the beginning of the eye starts. And the eyes actually, if we were to measure, take a unit of measurement of the eye, our faces are actually about 5 eyes wide. So we're trying to get the eyes proportionate to the size of this head right here. So I'm going to use about a finger space. I might use my pinky because my fingers are a little bit bigger. And I'm going to make a mark, a pinky mark on either side of the line of symmetry. Okay? And then I'm going to use 2 fingers to decide how wide the eye is going to be. So not quite 2 fingers because I don't want my eyes too big. I'm going to do that on both sides. This decides the width of my eyes. And you can see here how this is just about 5 eyes wide. Okay? That's just a good rule of thumb. Everybody's faces are not the same, but it's always going to give you a very realistic looking face. So remember, our eyes are almond shape or football shape. So they have pointed at the ends and curved at the gentle curve at the top and at the bottom. Now, on your handout, you can look at different shapes of eyes depending on your ethnicity. Your eyes will be a little bit different, okay? That's how God made you, and you're made perfectly that way. So this, again, is just the general rule of the basic shape of the eye, but some eyes are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit wider. Now, look in the mirror, or look at my eyes, and we have another part of the eye that we need to put in, and that is called the iris and the pupil. The iris is the colored part, and the pupil is the dark black dot inside. And if you look carefully, you cannot see the entire iris. Part, or even the top and the bottom of the iris, is often covered up by the edges of the eyelids. And in my eyes, I'm looking, I think actually, yeah, the top and the bottom is both hidden by my eyelids. So you could show that with both, that the circle is hidden at the top and the bottom. So it's a little tricky. You have to imagine a circle inside the eye. And remember, we're doing it very sketch-like. I'm doing it a little darker so that you can probably see it a little bit better. But you can see how the top and the bottom of the circle of the iris just sort of touch the eyelids. They're partially hidden. This is really important when you're doing a self-portrait. If you just did a circle in the middle of the shape of the eye, it would look very strange. I wasn't too happy with the bottom curve here. I'm going to fix that. Drawing lightly so it's easy to change. So there is the circle of my iris. Now I'm going to put another circle inside for the pupil. And before I color that in, I'm going to leave, we've done this before when we do animal eyes, we're going to leave a little bit of white showing on the pupil. That's going to represent reflection. Our eyes, the surface of our eyes are wet, and so we leave a little white mark to show. If you look in a mirror, you can see reflective marks in your eyes. And we're going to do the same thing on the iris. We're going to leave a little white spot that will not be colored in. Okay, and we're going to do a copycat curve above the eyes that's going to show the crease of the eyelid. So right here, not too far up, you can look at your eye and determine, and it's going to be the same width as the eye because it's around the same eyeball. Okay, and we do have eyelashes. Now you don't want to do these really, really dark to be realistic. We want to keep them pretty light, and they start right along this eyelid here, and they swoop out, and I kind of lift my pencil as I'm going out, and it makes them get a little bit thinner, just like they naturally do. And I also don't take the eyelashes all the way to the inside of the eye because they're so thin there, a lot of times you don't see them. Boys and girls both have eyelashes, so you need to put them in. You'll look very funny if you don't have eyelashes. Okay, now let's finish a more realistic eye before we color it. If you look very carefully at your iris, you'll see that there are what look like little lines radiating out from the pupil. So I'm going to put those in. This is one of the things that really, all of a sudden, makes your portrait look very realistic. And you can still color these in, but you may decide you just want to leave it as a sketch, but they radiate out like spokes of a tire or of a wheel. And the outer edge of the iris is darker than the inside colored part. On everybody, that is true, no matter what color your eyes are. Okay? Now, there's one other little detail that makes the eyes look more realistic, and that is to show the tear duct. And the tear duct is this little curved shape on the inside edge or the inside corner of the eye. And the eye actually, you can see, kind of dips down like this. So we can see our tear duct, and that tear duct is just slightly colored in. It's a little bit darker than our skin. Okay, so that's a pretty good realistic looking eye. There are some other details you could do as well, especially on the bottom eyelid. Sometimes you can see the very inside edge. It's another copycat line, very, very light here. So some of that iris would disappear. Okay, these are some good looking eyes we're starting to see here. I lost my screen. There we go. Okay, your eyebrows are going to be another copycat curve above the eye, pretty much the same width as your eyes. Okay, they definitely start at the same point on your face here. They go a little bit farther out on the sides of the face, and you could do them sort of like that worm shape if you want to, or you can indicate with the kind of worm shape where you want the wispy marks to go. And they get thinner as they go out, and usually the hair marks are kind of fanning out. So I know I want it in this space here. And I'm going to fan out, up and out. I can't wait to see some of you. I think I already know a few of you who are going to choose this kind of self-portrait. I can't wait to see how you do. And I hope some of you really surprise me who think you can't do it, because I know you can. And it takes lots and lots of practice to do eyes. I've spent hours drawing eyes and noses and mouths so that I can be able to show you how to do it. But let's move on to the nose. The nose is going to sit on the next line. And you can kind of see again, if we divide now my face from my eyes to my chin, my nose is approximately, the tip of my nose, approximately halfway. Again, this varies from face to face. Some of us have longer noses, some have shorter noses. But we're going to put the tip of the nose right on that line. And depending, again, on your ethnicity, your nose will be a different width, okay? Some of you may have wider noses and a little bit flatter. Some of you may have longer and narrower noses. As a rule, just drawing a face, the edges of the nose line up with the inside corners of the eye. Can you see that on me? The edge of the nose lines up with the corner of the eye. So that helps me decide how wide to make my nose here. If I drew a line down on both sides, this would be the outside edge of the nose. And we're going to show that as a line right now, but they're connected by the nostril, which is kind of this little loop shape here. Okay, so before, up until about 3rd grade, we've done a C shape that connects to the tip and a backward C on both sides. We're leaving those a little bit separated this time. You see the tip here and my C shapes. They are actually connected by the nostril, which is a shadow area that shows the inside of the nose. And you may need to work on this a little bit. If you need to stop and catch up, take a break. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is probably the first time you're really drawing a realistic face, okay? Now, when we're drawing cartoons, we draw the bridge of the nose with a line, but the nose is actually, I don't have a line on my face, do I? You can tell where the bridge of my nose is because of light and shadow, okay, or value. So I am going to just make some hash marks here, some kind of shadow marks that show the shadows on the sides of my nose, because the light is catching right along the bridge of my nose. Okay, it gets a little darker when it goes toward the eyes, and you could even smudge it with your finger if you want to. This is some beginning skills of sketching. Also right here, right at the nostril, there's a little triangle shape of shadow. Okay, you can see this triangle shape here on both sides, and that is also going to let the viewer know that they're looking at a nose. I made a little bit too much shadow there. This is going to take practice. This is starting to come together. Okay, so there's my nose, and I probably would smudge that out. I don't like seeing all the actual pencil marks, so I can tap with my eraser and smudge that a little bit. And if you still want to draw a line for the bridge of your nose, you can do that. That's okay. And it comes up and basically connects with your eyebrow. That is just fine to show that if you prefer. And you can put a little shadow mark right along it like that. Okay, so let's talk about the mouth. The mouth is using the last line here, and the bottom lip is going to sit right on that line. And If you look at your mouth, the bottom lip is thicker than the top lip usually, but the top lip goes out a little bit further. So let's think about first about how wide the mouth is. Another rule is usually the corners of the mouth are about below the pupil or below the iris. So down here is how wide the mouth would be, down here. So that's the corners of my mouth. I'm going to do the bottom lip with a smile curve very gently. And I'm going to connect right now just with basically a straight line. And just above that, I'm going to put a little V shape. And actually, I probably should make that a little bit thicker because the bottom lip is thicker. Right above that, I'm going to do a V shape. And if you remember, this is called Cupid's bow, because if you turned it sideways, it looks like a bow and arrow. From the top of the V shape down to the corner of the mouth, on both sides. I made this one a little too pointy. You need to smooth that out. Okay. And the top lip, the end of that line goes out just a little bit beyond the edge of the mouth. If you look in the mirror, you can see the crease of your mouth. So I'm going to take that line. I didn't get my lips very symmetrical, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm not happy with that line. I'm going to go back and work on that a little more. Sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate, and that's okay. But now you can really see this shape, this Cupid's bow, right here. That's why it's called Cupid's bow. And the lips, again, are not defined by lines, but by shadows. So if you wanted to add a little bit of shadow mark right under the bottom lip, especially because it sticks out, and make this line a little bit thicker, separating your lips, because that shows us that inside our mouths, there's some shadows. Okay, the other shadow you might see is right above the chin. So right here, you might draw just a little bit of a curved line that shows the top of the chin. Okay, and we're almost finished. We need to do the ears. So the ears, if you look at the mirror or look at me, the tops of the ears line up roughly, the top with the eyes and the bottom with the nose. So we're going to take our ears from this line of the eye down to the line of the nose. Now, you may not want ears showing depending on what kind of hair you do. As you can tell here, you cannot see my ears. So if you want to draw your hair without, or your head without ears, that is fine. But if you don't have hair that's covering your ears, you need ears, or else you're going to look very strange. So the last thing that we need to do for our realistic portrait is the hair. And this has always been the trickiest part, because the outside line of the hair sits on top of the skull. So this dotted line represents our skull, okay? But our hair is on the outside of the skull, and our hair comes onto our forehead like a hat. So you need to look at your handouts, you need to look in the mirror and determine what your hair does across your forehead. Everybody's hair comes onto their forehead, even though mine goes up high. You can see here, this is the top of my head, this is my dotted line. This is my hair here, and mine comes down sort of like curtains. So I'm going to start mine on my forehead, and it's going to travel across my forehead, over my eyes, to the top of the ear. Look at my hairline. It goes from my forehead down to the top of my ear, and it does that on both sides. Okay, so that's my hairline. I have a part, so I'm going to just take that up to the top of my head, like this. And the outside of my hair, the part that sits on the skull, okay, remember the skull is the dotted line. I'm going to do my hair above that line on the outside. I have kind of wavy hair, curly hair, so I'm going to do a curvy, wavy line. And I'm just going to take it right outside my ears, right to my shoulders. My hair is going to just go behind my shoulders. And I'm going to do that on both sides. I hear my dog barking now too. Okay, there is my hair. Now again, if you want to not show your ears, so my hair does kind of come around and it's wavy and goes over my ears like this, so I could erase my ears. So the side of my face now, you may see my ear just peeking out from underneath my hair. Lost my screen again. So now you're going to go and you're going to get rid of all the lines that you don't need. So all of these dotted lines are going to go away. And you are going to be left with a fantastic self-portrait that you can personalize with your hair color, if you have some crayons or colored pencils, or you could just leave it as a sketch. That is perfectly okay. I really do want to see it though when you are finished, especially if you did this sketching portion. Oh, I forgot, clothes. Some of you don't know how to do the clothes. Most of the time these days I'm wearing t-shirts, so you could either show it with 2 curved lines. You don't want, your clothes aren't going to come all the way up to your chin, so we do need to do some sort of a neckline for whatever you're wearing. So you could do a circle shape for a neckline. You could do a V shape like this. You could add jewelry. And you can even add collars. So if you wanted to do your school shirt, we showed collars like this. And you need to make the back of the collar go behind your neck like this. And erase lines that you don't need. All right, boys and girls, I can't wait to see your artwork. Share with me what you've done, and I would love to make comments about it. I miss you all. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.